Welcome to A Cup of Comfort with me, Trish Laub. This show is about care hero topics that nobody wants to talk about. Perhaps you tended to a younger sibling's cut finger or babysat a neighbor's child. Maybe you were thrown into the fire and became a care hero during a medical crisis. You may care for a parent, spouse, sibling, a child, or a friend, but the challenges are the same. Getting the tools you need to navigate the maze of unfamiliar options can be overwhelming. I know. I have been there. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I am here to help you with all of it. No care hero topic is off limits. I am here to share with you concise, actionable information, as well as my fresh perspective about Alzheimer's and providing dignified care through the end of life for anyone with a life-altering diagnosis. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, sit back, and let me help you on your care hero journey. We will talk and share, we may laugh, and we may share a tear or two. And we will always share a cup of comfort. Hi, everybody. I'm Trish Laub, and welcome to A Cup of Comfort with me. I hope that you're beginning to feel the start of spring and see the light at the end of the very long tunnel that began in 2020. I want to repeat something that I said at the end of the last show. While every one of you is a care hero, I know that's been particularly challenging for those of you who have provided care in the past 12 months. Those of you that have done so deserve a special designation as super care hero. So, do any of you have a loved one struggling with anxiety, phobias, or perhaps stuck in what I refer to as an emotional loop, that emotion they're experiencing that they simply can't seem to terminate? Well, I did. At one point, after what should have been a 5-day stay in skilled rehab, that turned into 63 days, my dad, who was living with Alzheimer's, got stuck in that emotional loop. That summer, he cried for days without being able to tell us why. And at one point, he cried for 38 hours straight. And I mean that, through the night, the whole deal. We were unable to help him, and we needed help urgently. I came across a new-to-me therapy, and with my mom's approval, and without expectation, took my dad to try it. After about 25 minutes of the session, both the therapist and I saw something remarkable happen. My dad physically changed. He relaxed and was calm, and I knew that the loop had been broken. When I returned to my parents' home that day, my family was there waiting to have dinner, and when we came in, they just stood there and looked at us, seeing the change and asking, "What happened?" Today, my guest will be talking about a specific kind of therapy, experiential therapy, one of which helped my dad. But before we get to that, I want to mention some non-experiential therapies, which most people have heard of, and some of which have helped me and my parents. Like me, you've probably heard about the benefits of meditation. Meditation is not really a therapy, but rather a practice that helps calm the mind and body. My mom had significant arthritis and the associated pain. Massage, which is a form of body work, can be performed in a variety of ways with different goals from relaxation to pain management. And you've probably heard of acupuncture or even acupressure. It's a form of alternative treatment in which thin needles are inserted into the body or pressure is applied to the body in very specific locations to stimulate the central nervous system. Now, going a little bit further out on what I call the healing circle, you may have heard about energy healing. Energy healing is a powerful therapy that helps the recipient connect to their inner source of energy in order to shift dysfunction to health and well-being. Reiki is one form of energy healing during which a therapist channels energy into the recipient by placing their hands near or on the body, activating the natural healing process. And finally, I want to mention a powerful modality referred to as EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's an interactive psychotherapy technique designed to alleviate the distress associated with traumatic memories and phobias. And some of you who are care heroes have probably dealt with the phobias. Now, all of these are non-experiential techniques and therapies. All of those that I've mentioned can be immensely beneficial. They have been when I have done them, as well as when my parents were treated with them. EMDR, however, begins to incorporate an experiential component. So during the January 12th show, my guest talked about the value of art therapy. Art, either creating or viewing it, is used to help people explore emotions, develop self-awareness, cope with stress, boost self-esteem, and even work on social skills. Now, I'll let my guest explain what is different about art therapy as well as the therapies she will cover today when compared with the other therapies I just mentioned. Before I introduce my guest, I want to remind everyone that some of the information from today's show will be available in a downloadable PDF on the Care Hero radio page of my website. That's Trish Laub, Trish, Laub, Laub as in boy.com after the show. So Ashley Swanson is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Kansas and a registered psychotherapist in Colorado. In her current role as certified EVOX practitioner at Acacia Whole Health, Ashley uses EVOX perception reframing software as a therapeutic tool for aiding in the release of maladaptive core beliefs and reframing her clients' self-perceptions and worldviews. So I assure you, Ashley will explain to you what that means. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us about experiential therapies today. So let's just get started with that. What is an experiential therapy?
Great. Yes. So experiential therapy is actually an umbrella term for a variety of different therapeutic methods that are expressive and activity-based. And so basically what that means is that experiential therapies can be incredibly beneficial for increasing engagement, motivation, and participation within the therapeutic process. They are designed to recreate real experiences within a client's life. And by doing this, it brings these, sorry, I'm a little nervous. It brings these subconscious beliefs and feelings into a level of awareness where they can then be processed within therapy.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you find these helpful to both care heroes and the people for whom they provide care?
Definitely. So that is what is so wonderful about the 3 experiential methods that I'm going to be discussing today is they were chosen specifically with care heroes as well as loved ones receiving care in mind. So for caregivers, just as you said at the beginning of the show, dealing with a very high level of stress can be a daily occurrence, particularly, within the last 12 or so months. So again, experiential methods are going to help with giving support to caregivers, as well as emotional insight that they need to be able to feel better. For loved ones receiving care, experiential methods can be incredibly beneficial, again, because of increasing engagement and motivation within the therapeutic process. They can also help relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression. They can decrease the occurrence of getting stuck within those emotional loops, which you have mentioned. And I think one of the biggest ones is they can really improve quality of life.
Definitely. I know you referenced the emotional loop. I don't know what the technical term for that is, but, I've heard crying jags and things like that. But especially with my dad living with Alzheimer's, he just didn't have the ability to pop out of it and process. And so this was invaluable to us. So what are you here to talk to us about today? What are you going to share?
Yes, so I am going to be focusing on talking about EVOX, which is the experiential tool that I use with my clients. I'm also going to be highlighting the benefits of music therapy and equine assisted therapy. But I will start with EVOX because that's my bread and butter. But yeah, so a quick little bit about me. I became trained and certified in EVOX in 2017 after I relocated to Colorado to be closer to my mother, who is a caregiver for my grandmother. And I find EVOX to be such an interesting and beneficial experiential tool to use in talk therapy because basically what it's all about is working collaboratively with the client to start building awareness of these stuck perceptions that are no longer serving a purpose. And once we are starting to build that awareness, we can then start reframing those perceptions to help build a healthier, more balanced reality for the client. So when I discuss EVOX, I will give a disclaimer. It can feel very technical when I'm kind of going through the process of it. And I definitely want to say that the most difficult part of EVOX is basically me explaining it right now. Like, doing EVOX as a client is very intuitive and a very easy, welcoming process for the client. So, breaking it up into two parts. The first part of EVOX is going to be retrieving information from the client's voice. And how we do that is when a client comes into the office for an EVOX session, I have them put on a headset that has an external microphone. And once we have decided on a topic to focus on, the client is going to start talking, and I will take a 10-second recording of the client's voice. That recording then gets put back into the EVOX software, and EVOX actually plots it onto a visual map, which the client and I can then look at together on my computer. So this visual map is referred to as a perception index. And again, that perception index is giving us really valuable information about how the client is perceiving the topic that we are discussing. So again, it's hard to describe it without a visual, but basically what the perception index looks like is, it looks like a pie chart. It's broken up into 12 different zones, with each zone correlating to a different state of perception. And once the information from the client's voice is mapped onto the perception index, we are then able to look at specific zones that are manifesting with different levels of excess energy. So for instance, extreme excess energy is going to show up as red. High excess energy is going to show up as yellow. Medium excess energy will show up as green, and then blue is low excess energy. So once we have this information, I'm really going to be focusing on the zones that are showing up as red and yellow. I'm going to explain to the client what it means for that zone to be showing up, and I'm also going to be asking specific questions to the client relating to those zones. And so again, collaboratively, that's where we're starting to build that insight into these perceptions that they might not have been previously aware of. So the second part of EVOX,
part one.
Yeah, it's a lot. I have to get myself amped up to go through it because it does get very technical. But basically, the second part of EVOX is then the feedback component of it. So there's a couple of different things going on with the feedback. Basically, the client is going to be sitting back comfortably in their chair. They're going to move the headset, which has been around their neck, over their ears, and they're also going to have what is called the Zyto hand cradle that they're placing their hand on. And the Zyto hand cradle is an FDA-approved device that I use in EVOX to send balancing frequencies into the body during a feedback. So once this feedback starts, the client is going to be listening to binaural beats through the headset while receiving these balancing frequencies through the hand cradle. And for those who aren't familiar with binaural beats is a technique of combining two slightly different frequencies, so one playing in each ear, to actually create the perception of one single frequency within the brain. And so what actually happens when the brain is processing this new frequency is their body is going to be feeling more relaxed. It really helps with reducing stress and anxiety. along with, those balancing frequencies. So overall, the feedback process usually takes about 3 minutes, but typically it is a very relaxing, calming experience for the client.
Can I interject here and say,
yes,
I've experienced everything Ashley just described, and my dad did. But keep in mind that when my dad did it, he was not cognitively functioning fully. And so this was all possible with someone who was much later stage Alzheimer's, and we were still able to accomplish that without him understanding any of it. He just trusted his daughter. Said, here, put this headset on. Talk to me about this. So anyway, continue.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing. You don't have to understand this for it to work.
And your story particularly, that's such a wonderful example of how EVOX can be a really beneficial tool for individuals, living with Alzheimer's. So that's a very, very good point to make. So again, just to reiterate, is that was basically the process of doing EVOX, and we typically go through 3 or so rounds of that within the session. And again, our goal is to start, bringing those underlying perceptions to awareness, and then through the perception index and the feedbacks to really start reframing those perceptions and making the client be able to feel better on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And so in the case of my dad, he was stuck in what I call that emotional loop. And I would say it was over an event that was possibly around when he was maybe 6 or 7. And when he was crying and crying, it was as though he was processing as though he was 6 or 7. And when the magic happened with EVOX, he could have the same thought or memory and react to it as though he was in his 90s. Mm-hmm. So it completely reframed it for him. It didn't take the memory away in his case, but he could process it. So you are located in the Denver area. So for those people who are listening that might not be in the Denver area, can they find someone to do this with them? Can it be done remotely with you?
Yes, so EVOX can be done remotely. In order to do remote EVOX, a client is going to need a computer with Windows operating system. Unfortunately, it's not compatible with Apple products. They will also need a headset with a microphone, as well as the Zyto hand cradle. And I did check that Zyto hand cradle, which we do sell through Acacia Whole Health. I believe it's $325 before tax. So I see that it's it can be a financial investment to be able to do it remotely, but it is a possibility, which is good. Unfortunately, EVOX does not have one single directory. I really wish that was not the case. But I've found that the best way to find EVOX practitioners in your area, if you live outside of Denver or in different states, is to do an internet search of EVOX perception reframing. So those 3 words, along with, your city and state, and you'll be able to find information on if there are EVOX practitioners in your area.
Excellent. So we have some information that Ashley went over, as well as some additional supplemental information, contact information for Acacia Whole Health and Ashley on the PDF that you can download from my website, as well as on Acacia Whole Health's site. There's some more information. So I can't, EVOX is one of my favorite therapies. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course, yeah, it's a very interesting tool.
And I can definitely see how it's an experiential therapy with EVOX. Can you maybe go on and tell us a little bit about the other 2 therapies and why they're considered experiential, or whatever you want to share about it?
Definitely, yeah. So for music therapy and equine assisted therapy, I am not formally trained in either of these modalities, so I won't be going as in-depth as I did with EVOX, but I do definitely just want to highlight why they're wonderful experiential tools and just talk a little bit about them. So I'll start with music therapy. So music therapists utilize different musical interventions to address specific goals with their clients. One thing that I really wanted to highlight about music therapy in our conversation today is that music therapy can be extremely beneficial for individuals living with Alzheimer's. And the reason for this is because, we all know and can feel what a powerful tool music is. And music therapy can help awaken the mind and reconnect individuals back to past experiences and memories that have a musical connection. And one reason why this is that key areas of the brain that are connected to musical memory are typically undamaged in Alzheimer's. So those musical memories are essentially preserved, which is absolutely incredible. So a couple more benefits about music therapy. It can increase focus. It can improve cognitive functioning, as well as decreasing stress and anxiety. So it's a really wonderful one. And there is a great directory resource to be able to find music therapists in your area. It's through the American Music Therapy Association. And if you just go to, I know we'll have the website in the PDF, but it's actually a little funky with the flashes. So if you go to musictherapy.org, if you go to that main webpage, you're going to see on the left-hand side, there's a purple box that says find a music therapist, and it'll take you right to that directory where you can type in your information and find people near you.
Awesome.
And then, so the last experiential tool that I'm going to talk about is equine assisted therapy. So equine assisted therapy covers a range of therapeutic treatments that involve activities with horses to promote physical and emotional well-being within the client. As I said, I'm not formally trained in this, but this is a modality that is so dear to my heart because both of my parents are horse trainers. My whole life I grew up on a horse farm, so even before I had ever heard about equine assisted therapy, I was very much aware of the therapeutic benefits of horses.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, they're just so amazing. So equine assisted therapy has so many benefits. It can build self-awareness. It can help build self-esteem. It can help individuals with working with issues of trust and make clients feel more empowered. Working with horses also, it reduces stress. It actually has physical benefits of lowering blood pressure. And yeah, it can just improve overall health and well-being. So horses are naturally attuned to human emotions, which makes them a very powerful part of experiential therapy because they're able to act as an emotional mirror as well as create a safe space for the client. And even just the act of bonding with the horse within the therapeutic process, and this can be riding, this can be groundwork, such as grooming or even just being in the barn with the horse. It has very powerful impacts for emotional healing for the client. So, if you're interested in finding programs and facilities that offer equine assisted therapy, EGALA has a wonderful database on their website. So EGALA, that acronym is Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. And if you go to egala.org/programs, again, that's a wonderful, very easy to use database that you can look up places near you that offer that.
Sure. When I was researching for this show, I found a picture from Free Rein, Australia, and it was a woman sitting in a wheelchair who had cerebral palsy. And the story is that she sat there, the horses came and circled her and laid down. And as they all put their breathing into sync, it calmed and relaxed her body, and it synced with her breath. So it's just a very, very cool modality. So we're going to have to start wrapping up, and I just want to make sure, I want to just see if there's anything else that you want to share that you didn't get the opportunity to.
Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to offer is that I'm going to be offering a discount for a of Comfort listeners who are interested in trying EVOX. So that discount will be a 30% off discount for the 90-minute initial EVOX session. So typically that session is $135, and it will be $95 for a Cup of Comfort listeners through the end of April.
Great. And I think it's been up on the screen for people watching video, but you can find Ashley at Acacia, that's ACACIA, wholehealth.com, or at Ashley Swanson Counseling at gmail.com. And I want to thank you so much for, we blasted through, but we want to give people snippets and a feel for different kinds of experiential therapies. I appreciate you being here today to do that. I want to remind everybody that in the PDF that's on the Care Hero radio page of trishlaub.com, it's got Ashley's contact information, Acacia Whole Health's contact information, and more information about these modalities. So stop on over there, and I'll be talking to you again soon, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One therapy we did not mention is dance therapy, and I don't have time to do that today, but I wanted to say that up there with EVOX, my favorite is dance therapy, and I'll be doing a show on some of that and the benefits for me with that. So I want to thank you all for tuning in today and sharing this time with me. I'd love to hear from you. I say at the end of every show, please go to trishlaub.com, use the contact form, tell me where you're listening from, tell me if your Care Hero story, download the PDFs, and sign up for my newsletter. Join me the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 12 Pacific and 3 Eastern. Next time on April 13th, I'll meet you here to talk about the power of your word choices and how they affect your experience as a care hero. This episode is one of my all-time favorite topics. It's the use of words and language. We have a lot of great shows coming up. I have 2 different care heroes that want to share their stories. Felicity Warner is from the Soul Midwife program based in England. I'll have a financial advisor who looks out for his clients that are care heroes, and many, 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 many more topics. So as I always say, until next time, remember that you are a care hero. Thank you for listening to A Cup of Comfort with me, Trish Laub, and for your care hero courage. Tune in next time on Transformation Talk Radio as we explore life-changing care hero topics to assist you on your journey. In the meantime, I would love to hear any tips or insights that you've taken away with you today. So head on over to trishlaub.com. That's Trish Laub, L-A-U-B as in boy.com, and leave a comment, a question you would like answered, or a topic you'd like to hear about in the future. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter. So raise a cup and let's toast to all the amazing care heroes out there giving it their all. Until next time, remember that you are true heroes.
Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the station, its management, or advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.